finds out which way God is moving and then gets going in the same direction. Pray for guidance and direction. Discover the places where God wants you to be and then get moving in that direction. Inside of God's will is the best place to be. Can you give God a hand clap of praise? That's the best place to be. So God leads us where we need to be, not where we want to be. I know right now Tajay is messed up. Their sister Megan's leaving them, but they need her at Northeast High School. So it's where God, He's going to put you where you need to be. And now, see, here's what happens. Because if we go where we want to go, it's going to be someplace that's easy, comfortable, and we can sit back and kick back. But God says, I need this light to go over here into some darkness. I don't need you around all the light because there's already light over there. I need you to take that light and put it in the darkness because that's where you need to be and not necessarily where you want to be. So the idea here, so this idea about black I love it, him and black read this, please. Watch to see where God is working and join Him in His work. I'm not trying to make His will. I want to join Him in His will. He's already moving. I just need to join Him instead. So lastly, we want to go back and take a look at some opportunities. On your outline here, I want to just take just a couple of minutes. We've already gone through the TRANS and the F. I want to just look today at just a few portions of scripture on your outline, the O and the R and the M and A. I'll give you that for your records. So from Romans chapter 12, 1 through 2 from the Message translation. I want you to repeat after me. I'm ready to receive the word. I'm excited about receiving the word. I'm prepared to receive the word. I want you to stand even now in the presence of God. Let's read this together from the screen up here. And this is from the Message translation. Romans 12, 1 and 2 Message translation. Let's read that together. So here's what I want you to do. God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life. You're sleeping, eating, going to work, and walking around life. And place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for Him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what He wants from you and quickly respond to it. In the next part, unlike the culture around you, always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings the best out of you, develops well-formed maturity in you. Amen. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. Here's your O right here. Ordinary life placed before God as an offering. Ordinary life placed before God as an offering. What Paul said in Romans 12:1 from the Message translation says, take your ordinary everyday life and place it before God as an offering. Now, what is he not saying? He is not saying, as believers, we are ordinary. He is saying the things that you do routinely need to be viewed as an offering to God. What are we saying right here? So sometimes, how many of us have ever got into just a rut of a routine? Just kind of going through the motions. What he is saying is don't ever go back in and get into a rut because you offer your whole self unto God as an offering. Going to work, offering to God. Serving others, offering to God. Coming to church, offering to God. Going to Walmart, offering to God. That whatever in our ordinary life, the things we do routinely, we now make them an offering before the Lord. So as we talk about here, let's read this right here. We now do what? enter the extraordinary. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra. Come on, read this with me. I refuse to live an ordinary life when I serve an extraordinary God. If you know you serve an extraordinary God, would you join me in giving God one more hand clap of praise in Jesus' name? Here's our next one here. This idea of the verse 1 Amplified Classic. Reasonable, rational, intelligent service and spiritual worship. What Paul says that basically saying the least you could do is offer reasonable, rational, intelligent service and spiritual worship to God. I love what happens here in Amplified Classic, because with him saying spiritual worship, that would imply you can also have what? Unspiritual worship. If he's saying spiritual worship, that means you can also have secular or non-spiritual worship. Non-spiritual worship is when we are the focus and not God. Non-spiritual worship is we talk about how I made it over, but God gets no glory. Non-spiritual worship is about all the attention on me and none of it on thee. So this idea of worship. So let's go back and take a look at this now. This idea of worship. So this is our definition we've been using for years now. Worship is, to say this together, faithfully and fearlessly, focusing on the Father. See, there is a difference. We always say praise and worship. And we sometimes say them like they're the same thing. It really should be worship and praise. Because worship, I'm focusing on God fearlessly. I'm focused on Him. And praise is my reaction to how good God is. Well, praise is about, so you got 7 Hebrew words for praise that are reaction to how God is. So I can't have praise until I have worship. When I fearlessly and faithfully focus on the Lord, then at that point, I'm going to have some response to that focusing on God. So what happens? So this could be a definition of worship. That now the only thing in her viewfinder is what's in front of her. Now I love this. Let's read this together. Worship will get you through the roughest times in your life because it shifts your focus from the problem to the problem solver. What does it sound like? If I'm now looking at the problem solver, what does that sound like? Behold, I tell you, you know, Sister Man got no job. Yeah, I did, so behold it. With an unveiled face, beholding the glory of God, that I'm going to stop looking at my problem. I'm just going to focus on the problem solver. I'm going to stop looking at my trouble. I'm going to look at the bridge over troubled waters. I'm going to stop looking at my hurt. I'm going to look at the one who heals. And while I'm doing that, I'm being transformed into the same image I'm beholding. Beholding, at that point, more than a casual glance. Focusing intently, and intentionally, we become what we behold. So worship comes from the Latin word that means worth-ship. How many know God is worthy? I said, how many know God is worthy? How many know God is worthy? So worship is about God being worthy. So you have these things. So a true worshiper, I love it. We're going to talk about this first one. Up in red. A true worshiper is one who has received a full revelation of who God is. Yes. When you know who God is, and you know what God has done, and you know where God has brought you from, at that point, that's when we're able to worship. Now here's what happens. If I don't really know what God has done, if I don't have a full revelation, it's easy not to go back in and serve Him and trust Him and share about Him and seek Him. But when I have a full revelation about who He is, that's when real worship really occurs. Now look what happens here. We've been transformed by worship. Now you got this acronym here. We're talking about this in Bible study here. But it's time for transformation. Now, I want to spend our remaining time here on this part. Mercies of God. Mercies of God. Mercies of God. Mercies of God. It says right here in verse 1, Romans 12:1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God. The mercies of God. What's the difference between mercy and grace? Mercy and grace, they're cousins. So mercy, read this please. Not receiving what we did deserve. Mama said, clean up the house, and before I get back home, and if you don't, you're going to get a spanking. If you didn't get a spanking, that was mercy. When somebody throws themselves on the mercy of the court, not receiving what we deserve. Now here's grace. Read this. Receiving what we did not deserve. Grace. You know we do. The blessings we have and the favor we have, we did not deserve that favor, and we did not deserve those blessings, and did not deserve that breakthrough, but because of God's mercy and His grace, we start receiving by grace. We received what we did not deserve. With me on that? Mercy and grace. Mercy again is what? Deserved punishment. Deserved to go to hell. Didn't receive it. Grace. What is it? All right. Now, so here's the point. So now, what's the difference between grace and the law? Grace and the law. I want to go back just very quickly here and just give you, just so you can have this for your files, because I know many times, many of us are still dealing with people who are still law conscious and not grace conscious. I want to give us very succinctly a way to go back in and share. Now, don't give them all the slides at one time. I may not talk to you, but give them one slide at a time about the purpose of the law. Now, here's the first purpose. The law, read this with me, please. The law does what? Reflects. What? Reflects, not corrects. The law simply reflects and shows us what's wrong, but does nothing to correct what's wrong. The law is like a mirror that simply reflects but does not correct. Grace corrects. The law reflects. What I'm saying right here, read this please. Romans 3:20 NLT. For no one can ever be made right with God by doing what the law commands. Look at the last part. The law simply shows us how sinful we are. All the law does is say, look at the wretch undone. It reflects, but does not correct. What purpose of the law? Here's the next one. What's this one? It what? Next one? Directs, not connects. So the law was designed to direct us to Christ, but cannot connect us to Christ. What are we saying right here? Read this right here. Galatians 3:24. The law was our schoolmaster to bring us to direct us to Christ, that we might be justified by faith. So the law directs, say there's Christ, but does nothing to connect us to Christ. Here's the last one. I love this one. The law does what? Subjects, not perfects. See, the law will subject you to condemnation. Amen. The law will subject you to feel like you're not good enough. The law will make you feel like you can never live up to it. But it does not perfect us and make us whole and complete and thorough. The law will subject us to penalty and punishment and pain, but will never perfect us to be whole in Jesus. So here's what happens. So here's what we thought. How many laws were there? How many laws? 613. We used to think if somebody only broke 10 laws, they were better than the one that broke 600 laws. Amen? Let's read what James 2:10 says. Read this together. For whoever keeps the whole law, all 613 laws, keep going, and yet stumbles in one point,